is our guest. She's a local author. She's written a book called Banknotes, The True Story of the Boonie Hat Bandit. You remember that guy. He was a story. He made national news here in St. Louis, robbed a number of banks. He was sentenced to prison. He's got 9 years left, and Caroline met him while she was working at the prison, and they are now engaged. And she wrote the book, Banknotes, to tell the whole story. Now, we often hear that there are women out there who fall in love with prisoners. Have you met these other women who have done similar things that you're doing?
Oh, yeah. In fact, my second book, I just finished my second manuscript, actually tells the stories of families who are living with incarcerations, because so many people think that if you're connected to an inmate or if you've done the unthinkable and you love who society considers unlovable,
right,
that you must be crazy. And actually, there are a lot of really regular, hardworking people out there who it just happened to be something that happened in their life.
So, whereas you were there and met him, but we hear stories where people write letters to inmates and then fall in love through letter writing.
It happens. It happens. And what's kind of funny about me and Keith falling in love is that he had made up his mind as soon as he was arrested that he was never going to have a romance in prison, because he got a lot of that group email when he was at county and even after he went to prison. And
so he got group email. So women were calling him and writing letters.
Well, they were writing to him. You can't call him. But yeah, he got letters, and it made him uncomfortable. And
so women were reaching out to him because he was in jail.
Yeah. And it made him uncomfortable. And I, of course, did not go to work at a prison in order to use it as a dating site. I mean, that was my last intention at all.
Right.
And so we kind of find it humorous that the two of us are in such a committed relationship with each other, because neither of us had any intention
Now,
of it.
You say this isn't true, but there's got to be for some women that they like the relationship where the one is in prison and they're free, right? I mean, there are some people who like it that way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are, well, just like on the outside, there's every imaginable type of relationship and reason for being in a relationship.
Right.
And there are women who are kind of the needy dish rag who feel like it's safe to be in a relationship with an inmate because there's no physical entanglement and they don't really have to commit and they can go off and live a separate life. But that's not every relationship.
I have to ask you about conjugal visits, just because he's your husband. Will you be allowed conjugal visits as a husband and wife?
Missouri doesn't allow conjugal visits.
Doesn't allow it?
Of any sort. No, in fact, when people can visit in the visiting rooms, they're very strict. Like, you are allowed one quick kiss on your spouse's lips. Like, if you put your arm on the back of the chair, you're not allowed to actually touch their shoulder or anything like that. You can hold hands, but it's very regimented.
And they watch that very closely.
Very closely.
So it isn't like you give them $20 and they turn the other cheek and don't look. And
no, not at all. And you're in a room with 15, 20 other families having visits too at the same time. So it's not private at all.
Caroline Giammanco, the book is Banknotes, The True Story of the Boonie Hat Bandit. Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble as well. What is the one thing you want people to take away from this book and your story?
Probably that there's a lot that goes on inside of our system that we as taxpayers are paying for that none of us would ever imagine was possible. That there's some reforms that need to be made inside our system. Like, for example,
what are some things we'd be shocked to hear?
The complete lack of an effort to rehabilitate inmates in prison. And we're given the idea that the system, the corrections department, is there to correct them and rehabilitate them so that they're better when they get out. And for all the money that we spend on corrections, which is this year $710 million, for 33,000 inmates, we get a really poor product out the other side if you look at the state's recidivism rates. And I am heartened by Governor-elect Greitens' selection for the new director of the DOC, and I think it's really important that he made that his first cabinet choice, because she's coming from a state, North Carolina, that has proven success in criminal justice reform. They have dropped their recidivism rate by about 50% by the steps that they take. And that's something our state really needs, because I'm not of the mindset, oh, the poor misunderstood inmates, they need to just be all set free. I worked in there. I know there's some really creepy people, but there's also people who, all of those people, even the really creepy ones, need rehabilitation, because they will, 95% of them, be getting back out in our communities. And we, as taxpayers and community members, we deserve better than what we're getting.
The corrections facility has been under massive amounts of criticism the last couple of weeks because of that patch, I guess, in Kansas City, where they called out the fact that there were all of these sexual harassment lawsuits, that the state was paying millions out, and no one knew that the state was paying out millions for these lawsuits.
What's even more shocking is that those are the cases that actually were able to get an attorney who would take the case and fight it and win. There are countless people in the system who've been harassed, sexually harassed, hostile workplace environment, retaliated against, who have just remained quiet, who just kind of slipped away and thought, I don't want to even deal with the DOC anymore. So that $7.5 million that the state has paid out in those retaliation and harassment suits is the tip of the iceberg of what really has happened inside the system.
Right. So Eric Greitens, governor-elect, had to do something because they lost their director, and it's a whole other nightmare. Caroline Giammanco, the book is called Banknotes, The True Story of the Boonie Hat Bandit. So hopefully you are married by when? March, you said? March. And then in 2018,
we can start seeing each other.
2018, you can get a kiss on the lips.
Yes.
And
something we have not had. For all of you who think that we were doing something sleazy while we were working together, we did not.
So you've never kissed him?
No, never kissed him. We've had no physical contact.
You've had no physical contact?
No, it was against the rules, so we didn't do it.
You're going to marry a man, your first physical contact is going to be a peck on the lips.
Yep.
And then in 2 more years, you'll be able to hold his hand.
Yes.
And then in 9 more years, if he is given parole, you will then be allowed to hug him.
Well, and more.
And more, yes.
Yeah. Live together, yes.
So 9 years is what, 2025?
Yeah.
2025, if he's out on good behavior, which you have to assume if he's a model prisoner today, you would think that the parole board would give him an opportunity.
Yeah, he's done nothing to give them any reason to not.
Is he asking for a pardon of any kind or a commuted sentence from the governors?
Well, that would be nice.
Is he asking for it, though?
He hasn't asked for one, but if Governor-elect Greitens would like to consider it, we're open to the idea.
Well, we know they listen. We just know they don't come on the show. Caroline Giammanco, the book is Banknotes, The True Story of the Boonie Hat Bandit. Barnes & Nobles here in town, Amazon.com. It is a tell-all story, one you don't hear very often. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck with the marriage.
Thank you.
Let us know how it turns out. Let us know, just an unbelievable American story. Thanks for coming. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
9:36.